A U.S. relief official says at least 29,000 Somalian children have died in a famine that day after day is forcing hundreds of Somalis out of their own country. For many, the desperate search for food, water, and medicine ends at a sprawling refugee camp in Kenya. For one retired Marine Corps general, it's déjà vu on a tragic scale. The CBS Early Show's Erica Hill has more from the famine zone.
Do you feel relieved at all now that you and your family are here?
At one point he feels relieved because he arrived here alive with his family.
Here is the world's largest refugee camp in Dadaab, Kenya, where more than 1,300 Somalis arrive each day, many trekking over 100 miles, driven from their homes by the worst drought in half a century and by Somalia's second famine in 20 years.
I had some goats and a big farm. For a period of 4 years, there was no rain and the farm dried.
Frankly, it just gives me a flashback. I would defer any other questions until, as I say, I get my feet on the ground.
Lieutenant General Robert Johnston led the international mission to feed starving Somalis, Operation Restore Hope, in the 1990s.
What's happening now is almost a mirror image of what happened 19 years ago.
During the 1992 famine, Somalis gratefully welcomed the help of the international community. But when a U.S. Black Hawk helicopter was shot down over Mogadishu in October 1993, American empathy turned to outrage.
Yes, diarrhea, vomiting.
Today, more than 3.5 million Somalis are at risk of starvation. But the response this time is far different. With the world economy stretched to the brink and the U.S. military committed to 2 wars, America isn't as willing or as able to help.
I don't see them wanting to go in there again, and we're certainly not going to take the lead.
Further complicating relief efforts, Somalia has been without a central government for 2 decades. Armed factions are constantly at war, using food to buy loyalties and guns. In the south, where the famine is greatest, Al-Shabaab, a terrorist group linked to Al-Qaeda, is in control. Aid workers there have been threatened, even killed, and in many places, it is simply too dangerous to bring in aid. And so they flee Somalia for Dadaab in Kenya, a camp of more than 400,000, nearly 5 times its capacity, stretching further into the Kenyan countryside by the day. 34-year-old Shafiro, her husband, and their 2 young boys live in this new part of the camp. They spent 40 days making their way here from southern Somalia.
Do you think it will get better here?
She feels the situation may get better in Dadaab.
Despite the often dangerous journey, thousands of Somalis are still making the journey to places like this, an overcrowded refugee camp, which does offer them some hope. Yet there is still the question of what comes next, because now they face an uncertain future. Erica Hill, CBS News, Dadaab, Kenya.